Mike Tomlin. With the celebration of the ages, pulls one for Pittsburgh directly out of his rear end. The Pittsburgh Steelers take it for the AFC North crown in an absolute peak cinema, peak comedy. The Pittsburgh Steelers do it again with none other than Steeler voodoo, Steeler magic. Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers 26-24 versus that jabroni, John Harbaugh. This is your NFL Week 18 reaction, review, recap, and analysis. Now, because it's Week 18, I want to spend extra time on the playoff teams. I want to spend time on where my heart desires, as we do every week here on the Bottom Line View. Make sure that you, Gronk, spike the like button. Don't be a jabroni and subscribe for the NFL playoffs, as we will be live for every game. We will be reacting, recapping, and analyzing every matchup and every game here on the channel. And I want to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who will stay at home to take on the Texans and their terrifying, dominant defense. We'll talk a little bit on that, how the Texans look this week. But let's start with the 10-7 Pittsburgh Steelers, who cap off their regular season with a 26-24 win over the Baltimore Ravens at home. In a game where Aaron Rodgers, at 40 years old, attempted 47 passes. Aaron Rodgers threw the ball 47 times. He threw no interceptions, 1 touchdown to Calvin Austin for the lead, for the win. Was sacked only twice, 294 yards and a 90 passer rating. I think where we need to start is Aaron Rodgers, because I think the reason the Steelers won this game is Aaron Rodgers. It's not because of their defense. It's not because of their run game. It's not because of their receiving core or even the voodoo. It was because of Aaron Rodgers. Let's be honest. Some people don't like Aaron Rodgers. I'm not one of those people, bro. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan there's ever been. I'm certainly not. But when you look at this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, there is no way, and I mean absolutely no way, they make the playoffs with a Mason Rudolph, with a Duck Hodges, or even with a Russell Wilson. Without Aaron Rodgers, this team is not a playoff team. 47 attempts. 47. I am often someone that analyzes the game of football, and some may say that Aaron Rodgers just simply threw screens, quick throws, and kept the offense in rhythm. But to throw the ball 47 times, Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers, put the ball in his right arm, and said, you, Aaron Rodgers, number 8, are our best chance to win. And Aaron Rodgers controlled the game. Aaron Rodgers processed the game. Aaron Rodgers had command of the game. At the line of scrimmage, when he needed to make a big throw to Adam Thielen or Pat Freiermuth or Calvin Austin or MVS, he did it. When he needed to throw the ball to the flat for 5 yards for Kenny Gainwell, he did it. When he needed to throw the ball for 2 yards to Jonnu Smith, he did it. Sure, there was a lot of screens. There was a lot of swing passes. But ultimately, Aaron Rodgers dropped back 47 times at 40 years old, stared the biggest opposition in his division eye to eye, went bar for bar, throw for throw, play for play, with the quarterback that some people, not me, but some people believed should have been a back-to-back MVP. And tonight, I do not want to sit here and be a Lamar hater, because I don't think Lamar is the reason the Ravens lost. But he wasn't the reason they nearly won. He threw an interception to TJ Watt, which kind of flipped the game in a way and gave the Steelers the lead for the first time in the game, if I'm not mistaken. He only had 18 attempts in the entire game. And the Ravens clearly, unlike the Steelers who were playing through their 40-year-old quarterback, 47 attempts, Lamar had 18. 11 completions. The Ravens thought the best way to win is through Derrick Henry. What does that say about their passing game? What does that say about their quarterback? Second, Lamar missed D-Hop wide open on the final drive. That nearly lost them the game. Luckily, he made a great throw down the field to Isaiah Likely, who made an even better catch. But on the 2 biggest plays of Lamar's day, the one where he nearly was sacked by TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, that was simply sensational. That was Lamar Jackson at his best. That was Action Jackson, right? But other than that, I didn't see a lot of that all game. Even the other Zay Flowers touchdown was just a busted coverage wide open on a great play call by Todd Monken. Sure, Lamar had to deliver the throw, but if anything, that's more Zay Flowers, and if anything, that's just a great play call and the Steelers messing things up. I definitely am one that picked the Ravens because I feel like all year they've been more talented. I think on a neutral field, they're probably a better team. But this is the thing. The Steelers and the Ravens, it's a rivalry as old as time. These teams typically split season after season after season. In Pittsburgh, there's things that happen that can't be calculated. Even Chris Boswell missed an extra point in this game. This Pittsburgh team is peak comedy. How many times have they won a game off of another team messing it up? The Steelers nearly messed it up for themselves at the end, and they were saved by a loop missed field goal, who I kind of knew was going to miss the field goal. 44 yards out, I'm like, this guy's going to miss, bro. I knew it before he even lined the kick up. I'm like, they're going to miss the field goal. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's the terrible towels. I don't know what's on those towels. Pixie dust, Bodo's tears, TJ Watt's blood. I don't know what's on those terrible towels, but they get the job done. Call whatever you want to call it. Spaghetti and meatballs. Call it Pittsburgh voodoo. This team is magical. Magical. A magical amount of BS happens in Steeler games. But the storyline to me is Aaron Rodgers outplayed Lamar Jackson in the biggest game of their season. 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who has not been always the most clutch quarterback in NFL history. Now, Lamar has certainly not been the most clutch quarterback ever. Not even damn close. But Lamar actually wasn't the reason they lost. The reason the Ravens lost, if you could blame one individual, his name is John Harbaugh. I mean, I don't know what needs to happen for this jabroni to get fired. John Harbaugh has lost lead after lead after lead after lead all season, all last season, and all the time. John Harbaugh needs to go. It's time for a fresh start. You see him on the sidelines. Biggest drive of the season. He's looking at the play call sheet to see what Todd Monken called. He's not doing shit. What is he even doing? Their special teams missed the game-winning field goal. Their defense can't stop a nosebleed. They have no pass rush. They can't make in-game adjustments. If they can't run the ball, they don't have an offense. What does John Harbaugh actually do? And then we've got on the other side, Mike Tomlin. I mean, I howled when I saw that celebration. That was hilarious. I'm not going to lie. That was comedy. But man, Aaron Rodgers, man, walked down the Ravens, sliced them up, ripped them up, shredded them, and executed for a touchdown. Now, the thing I can't understand is the Baltimore Ravens, I don't even know if they blitzed once all game. Did they expect their crummy, awful, terrible, no good pass rush to actually get to Aaron Rodgers? You got to heat this guy up. You got to get him thinking. You've got to show him simulated pressures. You got to make him antsy. You got to get some stunts up front. I mean, I saw nothing from Baltimore. No creativity, no flavor, no interior pass rush, no ability to impact the pocket, no blitzes, nothing. So Orr is got to go. Harbaugh's got to go. Think about what I was saying and people were saying about the Ravens before the year. Best roster in football, talent to win the Super Bowl, all-star quarterback, all-star secondary. At a certain point, you got to blame the coaching. And I get it. Kyle Hamilton goes down and Nate Wiggins goes down. Adjust. It felt like the entire third and fourth quarter when Kyle Hamilton went down, they played soft zone coverage and they let the old man sit back there perfectly comfortable in his blankie, sitting back there and just playing catch with his kids. I mean, you gotta heat this guy up. You gotta get him antsy. And then Aaron Rodgers the whole game is screaming at his play caller. He's screaming at his backup quarterback. He's screaming at Adam Thielen. He's trying to get a new helmet on, bro. He's screaming at everybody. You just see Aaron Rodgers' urgency and his fire. I don't see any of that out of Lamar Jackson. All I see out of Lamar Jackson is a player that I didn't see any of that. I saw one little clap on the sidelines after the Steelers scored a touchdown and Lamar was like, okay, let's go. That's all I saw, bro. I saw Rodgers really wanted to win, man. Rodgers really wanted to win. You could tell. You could see it in his eyes. You could see it in his actions. You could see it in his fire. You could see it in his hunger. He had the eye of the tiger. The Ravens don't have that. They don't have that. And it starts with their coach, who's a jabroni. The Ravens had 12 first downs in this game. 12. The Steelers doubled them up with 24. That speaks to time of possession. That speaks to who controlled the game. That speaks to how the game was played. The Steelers were 9 for 16 on third down. They almost were 10 for 18 on third and fourth. They failed a fourth down before the half. Imagine if they would have put that up. The Ravens would have allowed 30 points to this Steelers offense. I mean, This is inexplicable, guys. It's inexplicable. You can't defend this performance from Zach Orr and the Ravens defense. You can't perform any worse. There's no DK Metcalf. There's no Darnell Washington. It's fucking MVS on his 5th team in 2 years. It's Scotty Miller, who most people thought already retired. It's Calvin Austin. It's Pat Freiermuth. Like, who are you playing against here? How can you allow this team to walk you down not once, but twice in the 4th quarter and beat you? How can you allow 23 points in one half? In one fucking half. If I'm a Ravens fan, I'm irate. I'm losing it. I demand someone to be fired. I demand somebody to be held accountable here. Harbaugh, trash. Another lead, gone. Or horrible all year. All year. You know your pass rush stinks. Make an adjustment. Ravens, what are you doing on offense? You let the Steelers have 73 plays ran on you. 73. They had 24 first downs. The Ravens never had control of the game in the second half. They scored a couple explosive plays. Outside of that, the Steelers felt like they had the ball the entire game. Like the entire game. 25 minutes of possession. The Steelers had more yards, had less turnovers, had double the first downs, had a higher third down rate of execution. The Ravens didn't even have a red zone touchdown in this game. Not one. They didn't even have a red zone score in this game. It's crazy. The Ravens scored 3 explosive plays and otherwise didn't really move the ball. Give credit to the Steelers. Jaylen Warren had a good game, 14 carries for 66 yards. Kenny Gainwell as a receiver, 8 catches, 64 yards. He also scored a rushing touchdown. Calvin Austin had 3 catches for 55 yards and the game-winning touchdown. Pat Freiermuth had big catches down the stretch. Adam Thielen with 3 for 43. Other than Zay Flowers, the Ravens had nothing in the passing game. D-Hop is washed and doesn't want to play football anymore. Isaiah Likely is never utilized until they need him. They signed Mark Andrews for some reason, and he puts up 2 catches for 14 yards in the biggest game of the year. Washed. Derrick Henry disappeared in the second half. 20 carries for 126 yards. Steelers really did a good job stopping him in the second half. Ravens have no pass rush. They lost Kyle Hamilton, and their defense disappeared. It evaporated. You can't just lose one player and have no defense. And I honestly don't even think if Loop would have made that field goal that the Ravens deserved to win the game. Because honestly, they didn't. In the 4th quarter, they got walked down by 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. They didn't put a finger on Aaron Rodgers. They let Adam Thielen, Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, Kenny Gainwell, and MVS beat them, slice them, and make them look like Swiss cheese. The Steelers, they just managed the game better. And it's all down to Aaron Rodgers. It's not Mike Tomlin. Aaron Rodgers saved Mike Tomlin's job. Aaron Rodgers won this game. I know it's frustrating to watch 2-yard pass after 3-yard pass after 3-yard pass after 4-yard pass. But that's the way the game had to be won. And Aaron Rodgers did it. He was the better quarterback in this game. Mike Tomlin can celebrate all he wants, bro. But he rode Aaron Rodgers to the win. Rodgers was calling the plays, writing them up in the dirt on the field. It was all Aaron Rodgers. What a disappointing season. What a disgraceful season. What a awful season if you're a Ravens fan, a Ravens player. The Ravens need to make changes. They need to make changes. There are no answers for this. You can't lose to this Steelers team. You can't. I don't care if it's a divisional game. I don't care if it's in Pittsburgh. You can't lose to this team in this spot, in this game. You can't. They have lost way too many big games. This was a playoff game, and to me, Lamar and Harbaugh have lost another one. That's how I view it. That's Sunday Night Football, 26-24 Steelers. Miraculous, incredible, wild game where there was 4 touchdowns scored in the fourth quarter. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was 13-10. The game ended up 26-24. I thought the game was over 3 separate times. I'm not going to lie. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Okay. Next, where do I want to go? Let's talk about the Steelers' opponent in the first round. 38-30, the Texans defeat the Colts at home to seal their 5-seed fate at 12-5. An impressive record for the Texans. Their best with C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans, thanks to what has become probably the best defense in the NFL. Now, they didn't play like that through the first half, where they allowed 17 points to Riley Leonard and the Colts in the first half. Now, I mentioned the first half because the Texans largely sat players in the second half. CJ played 14 for 23, 169, and a touchdown. Decent day for him, 97 passer rating. Some jabroni named British Brooks with the number 44 had 13 carries for 63 yards in the second half. Woody Marks also averaged the same amount, 4.8 yards per carry. I think there were some concerning aspects for the Texans here. Defensively, they allowed some explosive plays to Leonard. Early, Alec Pierce hit them with a double move. They stopped the run well. Jonathan Taylor had 1.9 yards per carry, but Leonard had 270 and 2 touchdowns and an interception by the end of the game. But Pierce was toasting them. 4 for 132. Josh Downs, 4 for 61. Some concerning elements here from that first half performance. I would say, though, that I'm not sure what to take from this game from the Texans, because I'm not sure how honed in they were, how focused they were. We saw a similar performance against the Raiders 3 weeks ago, and then they bounced back and hammered the Chargers. So I don't know if this is one of those things with the Texans right now where they were kind of overlooking the Colts. The Colts are a divisional foe. Early on in the game, they weren't really putting forth their best effort, and that's human nature. It happens. That's a way to describe a lot of these games today. But I want to give the Colts credit, Shane Steichen credit, their entire staff credit. Their defense didn't play very well here, whether it was against whether it was against Dalton Schultz, whether it was against C.J. Stroud, whether it was against Davis Mills. They didn't play very well. The Texans did have 22 first downs in the game, but I still felt like their offense played really well. They executed really well. The passing game was really solid. 8 for 15 on third down, 1 for 1 on fourth down, 19 first downs, 354 yards, and they turned it over 3 times. That's one of the best performances we've seen from the Colts all year. And this game, guys, was really 31-30 because the Texans scored a last-second touchdown from a fat guy on defense. But, yeah, I saw some things maybe where the Texans defense hasn't quite been playing at their peak entering these playoffs. I would make an argument for that. But the thing that they'll have to do against the Steelers is tackle, hit, and stop the run. And that's things that they're doing well right now. Hutchinson looked good in this game for the Texans, 5 for 84. He had a couple explosive catches where I was like, wow, he looks faster than usual. That was kind of my response. Danielle Hunter had the lone sack for the Texans, which is crazy. Only 1 sack. The Colts actually had 0, 1 in the entire game. Will Anderson caused some havoc in this game when he was out there. The Colts did have 3 turnovers, as I mentioned. I don't know what else to really say, but the thing that kind of caught me off guard was the Texans defense didn't play very well to start this game. The score was 23-17 at half. So the Texans offense looked pretty good overall, but the Texans defense was giving up explosives, big plays, and more yards than usual. And I thought Riley Leonard actually looked pretty good. He was making some nice throws, making some nice reads, and he did look very athletic in this one. So something to note for the Colts in the future. I don't know if he'll become the starter anytime soon, but there's something there, I think, at least athletically speaking. 38-30. Now, when we talk about the Texans and the Steelers, I'll leave most of my analysis to my predictions for the playoffs coming up, which will be released within the next couple of days. But I do favor the Texans in that game. The game is in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh does get an opponent where there is a possibility they can play them in the mud. They can drag this game down. They can pull the Texans down into the dirt and play their style of game. Dink, dunk, and make it ugly. And I'm just worried that the Texans are going to be able to overwhelm the Steelers from a defensive standpoint. I just wonder how the Steelers are going to be able to separate, get open, make plays, or even run the football consistently against a team that is this fast, this ferocious, and this good on defense. Plus, Houston's offensive line looked solid in this game. They've been running the ball solid. It's going to come down to the Steelers' ability to shut down the run and get to CJ Stroud on critical downs and force a couple of turnovers. I don't think the Steelers win this game unless they force more turnovers than Houston does. There's a possibility for that, but it's going to be difficult for the Steelers to score more than 17 points in this game. They're really not built to move the football against Houston. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. This feels like a brutal watch on Monday night, I believe the game is. Okay, let's go back to Saturday. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. Tampa Bay won it by 2, 16-14 over Carolina. Tampa deserved to win this game. They were up 10-0 in the first quarter. That being said, I felt like Carolina definitely could have won this game as Carolina missed a field goal. Carolina fumbled a flea flicker. They got a couple unfortunate calls from the refs. But overall, I felt like Tampa was the better team. I thought Baker was the better quarterback, 16 for 22, 203 and a touchdown. He did throw a really bad interception, which allowed the Panthers to kind of play and be in this game. Down by 2. They lost by 2, I should say. But that kind of allowed the Panthers to get on the board because until that point, they couldn't move the ball. And they scored on a short field thanks to a Roseboom interception. Baker forced the ball into what looked like to me like a cover 2 or something. Bryce Young statistically didn't have a bad game, but I just never felt like I had any faith in his ability to make plays on third down, in the red zone, on a big down, even against this Tampa defense that I'm not impressed by. The Panthers did not run the ball at all, and that's probably why they were losing this game. 14 carries, 19 yards. When the Panthers can't run, they can't win. It's a simple formula. Bucky Irving did run the ball pretty well, grinding out 85 yards on 26 carries. I just thought that overall he gave them enough balance, and he kept the chains moving in a really rainy, ugly, stormy game in Tampa Bay. Mayfield also had 4 key critical scrambles for 31 yards. Cade Otton, 7 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown, led the team in receiving, had a really nice day. Mike Evans was kind of quiet, 2 for 34. Tetairoa McMillan, I thought, had a great game and probably should have had an even better game if not for a bogus pass interference call on Tetairoa McMillan. He would have been over 100 yards. Jalen Coker had 6 for 47, including an incredible touchdown catch. Tommy Tremble was wide open on the other touchdown catch. But I was impressed by Tampa's interior defensive line, how they were able to get some penetration, how they were able to push the pocket and make Bryce uncomfortable. I thought Vita Vea had a really good game here. Levante David had a good game as well, being key and critical to the key fumble in the game. Who else? I thought Winfield had one of his strongest games of the season on defense for the Bucs. Derek Brown had 13 tackles, which is outrageous for a D tackle. Nick Scott, I thought, had a very strong game. Christian Roseboom, as mentioned, on the interception. Trayvon Morig had a strong game, a sack and 2 tackles for loss. Yeah, I kind of look at it as the Panthers lose and they're still in the playoffs because the Atlanta Falcons beat the Saints as expected, as I expected, right? This is the classic NFC South. The AFC North, that was a classic AFC North game between the Steelers and the Ravens. Comedy, random errors, right? The margins deciding it. Tampa Bay and Carolina, just who wanted to win it less? You know what I'm saying? Like, Carolina, it felt like they just did not do enough to win. Tampa Bay, they wanted it a little bit more, and ultimately it didn't matter. The Saints did not get it done against the Falcons. Falcons won 19-17, which pushes the Panthers into the playoffs because the Panthers won the first game, and the Panthers had the better record overall with the tiebreaker. 3-way tiebreaker, by the way. Atlanta was eliminated at the beginning of December and is probably the best team in that division, which is insane. They were also the team that finished third in their division despite nearly, having the same record as their other teams in the division. We'll talk about Raheem Morris, but Todd Bowles saves his job. I think he saves his job at least. I haven't heard anything, but I think that win will help, even though they didn't make the playoffs. I think Todd Bowles should be let go because I've not been impressed by his defense in years. The Carolina Panthers, though, I don't think they have the quarterback. I think I've had moments where Bryce has impressed me and I want to kind of buy in. But more often than not, Bryce does not. He just doesn't have the feel of a big-time quarterback. He's too small. He's too slow. His arm is average. He seems like a great guy. He's a smart kid. He's a smart quarterback. But honestly, he's just not it. He's just not it. Like, watching this game in the rain, bad weather, he's small. He doesn't have the arm. Like, it just stands out that much more. You need to have a first overall pick, a franchise quarterback, to be able to step up and throw the ball 30 times, 40 times to win. And Bryce Young hasn't done that many times in his career. He's done it a couple, but often not against playoff teams or good teams. I just kind of feel like they're not the greatest receiving core. They're not the greatest offense. But still, do you guys get the sense that Bryce Young is the guy? And then defensively, I just think they're undermanned. They don't have a pass rush. It feels like their linebackers are extremely suspect. They have some younger guys that are developing in their pass rush in their certain areas, but it's like, I don't know. I actually feel like their secondary has been really strong for them. But Panthers will move on and face the Rams, a team that they did beat at home earlier in the year, so we'll see how that goes. The Rams are not playing perfect football right now, but the Panthers just lost a game that if they would have won, they would have secured the division without having another team to win. So that's a big loss for the Panthers. Doesn't give me the most momentum or hope entering the playoffs, and they feel like an easy one-and-done cakewalk team. They don't even really have the potential mystical powers of a Tampa Bay or a Steelers or a Ravens, a team that you kind of feel like maybe there's something there. There's a little gusto. There's a little pixie dust. With the Panthers, it's like, no. It's a small quarterback. It's not a good run game right now. They don't have great weapons. Their defense is mediocre. How do we lose this game against the Panthers? You know what I'm saying? So that was the first game on Saturday. The second game on Saturday, 13-3 Seahawks. Honestly, 13-3 does not do this game justice. I'll be the first to admit I was wrong about this game and the result. I'm not shocked by it. I am shocked that the Niners only scored 3 points. I'm shocked that the Niners lost a game in which the opponent scored 13 points. And it was a shocking game in terms of how it went. But I don't think it's surprising that Seattle won, or even that they looked like the better, more talented team for a majority of the game. I mean, that's not really that surprising to me, because Seattle is more talented. Did I pick San Francisco to win? Sure. But it's not like it's crazy to think Seattle, who is favored on the road in San Francisco with the superior defense, with more talent, with the better, a healthier team, that they wouldn't win. You know what I'm saying? So some Seahawks fans are clowning me and all that. It is what it is. It happens. It comes with the territory. Again, guys, because I think a team's going to win a game, first of all, it doesn't mean I think you should bet. Second of all, it doesn't mean I'm going to be right. Third of all, I make picks on every game. Sometimes I'm really accurate. Sometimes I'm really wrong. It just comes with the territory when you have to talk about all 32 teams, analyze all 32 teams, talk about every quarterback, talk about every coach. And sure, I have a little bias when it comes to the Niners. I look at myself as a Niners fan. Other than the Patriots, there is no team that I cheer for more than the Niners. And I think specifically when it comes to this year, there's this unique underdog thing about the Niners that I find kind of like admirable and very rootable. Very cheer. I can cheer for that. Because this is a team that, look at it this way. They're playing for the number 1 seed in their conference. They finished with a 12-5 record without 3 Hall of Famers in this game. They don't have their left tackle, Trent Williams, which provided to be critical, and we're going to talk about that. They didn't have Nick Bosa. They didn't have Fred Warner, as we knew on defense. And I think, Seattle only scored 13 points. They missed 2 field goals. They probably should have scored 16 points. But there was a couple near turnovers by Seattle that could have turned the tide of the game. You look at this game and it's like Seattle, because of no Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, it felt like they just controlled the game. They controlled the pace of the game. They controlled the way the game was played. They controlled the muckiness, the ugliness, just the pace, the control, the feel of the game. And without Fred Warner and Nick Bosa there to make a tackle on 3rd and 17 or a sack on a critical 3rd down, that makes a major difference. And yet still Robert Saleh and the Niners defense deserves a lot of love for only allowing 13 points in this game, coming through with clutch red zone stops and key 4th down stops and, enough stops to keep the offense in the game for as long as they did. Right? Seattle scored 10 points at half. They only scored 3 points for the rest of the game. And San Francisco nearly made this a really, really interesting game where they drive down the field in the fourth quarter. I think there's like 5 or 6 minutes left. And the ball bounces off Christian McCaffrey's hands for an interception. That was with... Hold on. That was with 10 minutes left. So there was still 10 minutes left, guys. If San Francisco scores there, it's 13-10. A field goal game with 10 minutes left. And I don't think you can really truly put the rest of the game into the perspective, because imagine the way the crowd would have been. Imagine how the defense would have been fired up. How that changes the play calling of the 49ers. How that changes the way the game is played. Maybe Sam Darnold's butt gets a little tighter, right? His booty hole gets tight. Like, you never know what's going to happen if Brock Purdy doesn't get that ball tipped and it's in the hands of Christian McCaffrey and it's a touchdown. It's 13-10 with 10 minutes left. And honest to God, I kind of think the Niners win the game, if that's the case. As outplayed as they were, as outclassed as they were, the Niners with 10 minutes left nearly made this a field goal game and nearly had a chance to win. Because even then, if you count the rest of the game on what happened, Seattle drives all the way down the field. They kick a field goal and they miss from like 20 yards. A 2-foot field goal. They miss on an 8-minute drive. The Niners would have had the ball down a field goal with a chance to win the game or tie it and send it to overtime. That blows my mind, right? Like that's crazy considering how dominant Seattle's defense felt in this game. How dominant Seattle's run game felt in this game. Like, some may look at this and say, Seattle they dominated this game. If this game was played again, it would have been 30-3. And you could look at it that way. That's perfectly cool. I totally understand. But imagine if the botch snap by Sam Darnold where he trips and they fumble the ball. How does the game different? What if McCaffrey catches that and scores? There are things in this game. There was a couple other plays that were near turnovers by Sam Darnold, by the Seahawks. A couple fumbles, I want to say, where it's like, what if that play goes this way? Like, the Niners could have won this game despite getting completely outplayed. I think that speaks to how hard they fight, how hard these players are playing, despite being out-talented. You know, how hard this coaching staff is fighting. And I gotta say, this was not Kyle Shanahan's shining moment. But this Seattle defense is phenomenal. It's an awesome defense, right? I would only put it behind the Texans this season. Like, they are awesome. And they have an argument to be the best defense in football all around. I personally like the Texans more because I think their pass defense is just absolutely ridiculously shut down because they have that edge rush and they have those corners. But Seattle is an all-around defense. Schematically, coverage, run defense, tackling, speed. They're awesome, man. And Brock Purdy, who had been spectacular the last couple of weeks, this was one of the first games that I saw Brock Purdy play where I thought he played bad. Like, he didn't play well, let's say, but I thought it wasn't his fault. A lot of the times when I watch Brock Purdy play and he plays bad, usually it's his fault because he throws the ball into double coverage or he throws the ball into like a window that's not there. He could have hit the check down. Like, there were other answers in the game that he could have went to. Even like the Mike McDonald Baltimore game like 2 years ago where he threw like 4 picks. That was a game where I'm like, Brock Purdy is just playing like a retard. Sorry, my language. Excuse my language. He was playing like an idiot, right? But that's honestly the best way to describe it is that word, the R word. But Brock Purdy has moments, even the Panthers' first half, 3 interceptions. He has these moments where he loses the Niners the game. This game, he didn't do that. Now, he also didn't win them the game. He was 19 for 27, which is actually a pretty good completion rate. But it was 4.7 yards per catch. And they just couldn't get any explosive plays. They couldn't create any yards after catch. They couldn't get anything going down the field beyond that one drive where they picked up maybe a couple plays to Kittle and Demarcus Robinson come to mind. And that was it. They didn't have Ricky Pearsall, and that killed them. Not having Ricky Pearsall to separate vertically to scare Reek Witherspoon or Josh Jobe down the field, that killed them. No Trent Williams to buy that extra second or to be able to tilt their pass protection a certain direction, that destroyed them. So really missing Trent and Ricky Pearsall played a major impact on how Seattle was able to shut down San Francisco in this game. Because I thought some plays, the pass protection, it wasn't like it was bad, but it collapsed. Like Purdy felt the interior collapsing on him. It's not like Seattle would just beat their guy and get to the quarterback. It wasn't that type of day, but it was like the suffocation of the pocket, the condensing of the pocket. And Purdy's a smaller quarterback that isn't big-armed and can just like rip the ball downfield. He kind of needs a little bit of room to play around, and the Seahawks just suffocated him. And I thought that played a major role. The way they were tackling, they were flying, the way they were passing off their coverage assignments, their matching assignments. I mean, it was spectacular defense. There was a lot of replays where typically you can see Purdy like, oh, you could have made that throw. No, I mean, when he could have checked it down, it was 3rd down and 8, and they probably weren't going to get the first down. Like, he tried. It's just like it wasn't there. So, to me, it's not Brock Purdy there. Could they have ran the ball more? Maybe, but they couldn't run the ball. Like, 8 carries, 23 yards for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe Brian Robinson could have got the ball more. But, again, so, like, do you blame Brock Purdy for this? Not really. Do you blame Shanahan for this? I mean, if anyone takes the blame, I guess you got to put it on Shanahan for not having answers for Mike McDonald and the defense. But there's only so much you can do when your receivers can't get open. Your premier tight end is kind of beat up. Your left tackle's out. Your receiver is out, right? Like your number one receiver, your number one tight end, and your left tackle are all injured or not playing. The pressure is winning up front with 4 or 5 guys, and you're not separating out, when you're running your routes. So it's kind of hard to be a play caller when you can't run the ball, when it's kind of tough to protect with only 4 guys rushing the quarterback, and when, they're not scaring down the field. So it was just a tough game for the 49ers. Like, the matchup really took over in this one. I don't think Seattle would be able to do this again to the 49ers. I just think that they're too talented and too good on offense for them to only put up 3 or 10 points again. But, man, was that impressive what they did in this game with the season on the line, with the number 1 seed on the line. Not the season, but number 1 seed, the NFC West on the line, right? Like, Jawan Jennings led the team with 4 for 35. McCaffrey had 6 for 34. A lot of these were big hits. A lot of these guys were, Kittle had 5 catches for 29 yards and his long was 20. His other 4 catches were for 9 yards. Like, they just didn't have answers, man. And Seattle, I thought their defense, Byron Murphy was incredible. Nick Emenwari was incredible. Ernest Jones was awesome. Devin Witherspoon was incredible. Jerron Reed was incredible. Like, these guys all played their fucking ass off. Nwosu was awesome. Like, these guys all were fantastic. There wasn't a guy that didn't play great on that defense. Like, you've got to give them a hand. Like, they had a great game plan. They executed it to a T. Offensively, Seattle still kind of has similar issues that they've had all year. They're playing a bottom 10 defense in the league. They only scored 13 points. Their only real receiving game was coming from Jackson Smith-Njigba, who had 6 for 84. And that's actually not like a great day for him. Kenneth Walker, though, I thought he was the best player on their offense. The 3rd and 17 play was incredible. He made some nice catches in the game. He ran really well, had some great cutbacks. Zach Charbonnet had a great run for a 27-yard touchdown. He had 74 yards. They ran for 180 yards, 4.6 per clip. The Niners kind of figured it out more as the game went on, a little bit more in the 3rd and the 4th. They had some good halftime adjustments. But I thought Seattle's O-line, the way they were running the ball, the way they were creating cutback lanes, give credit to Kubiak for finding answers for his run game there. And JSN was enough to keep their pass game afloat. I thought Sam was solid in this game. He made a couple nice scrambles. He made some nice throws down the field. He didn't put the ball in harm's way too often outside of like when he tripped and tried to fumble. 20 for 26, 198. On the first drive of the game, though, they drove down and it was 4th and goal, and he had a guy wide open in the end zone, and for some reason he didn't throw it. I don't know if it was nerves, if he saw something flash and he just didn't see it. I don't know, but 198 yards. Like, again, guys, if you were the Niners and you said Sam Darnold had 198 yards, JSN had 84 yards, they scored 13 points. I think if you were the Niners, you would have taken that. But the problem was that the Seahawks had the ball and they went on long, sustained drives, and the Niners could never catch a rhythm. Seattle had 23 first downs, 67 plays, 361 yards. That's basically a replica of what the Steelers did, and the Steelers had 26 points tonight. So, yeah, the Seahawks whooped their ass. 37 minutes of possession. That being said, if they played again, would it happen again? I don't know. I think it would probably be a grinder of a game once again. It would be decided in the end once again, and it would probably be either way game. Like, it would probably be a toss-up. It would be played in Seattle. For some reason, Seattle beat San Francisco in San Francisco, but not in Seattle. I don't know why, but we might get this matchup again in the divisional round and be prepared for a 17-14 type of game, a 20-17 type of game. Could Seattle blow them out and replicate this performance? It's possible. Is it likely? Probably not. I do need to see how the Niners look healthy against the Eagles and if they'll even be capable of winning that game, which is a very similar matchup to Seattle in a lot of ways. I think the Eagles are a lot less organized on offense than Seattle. I think Seattle is a better offensive team. I think that Seattle is probably a better defensive team. Seattle's probably a better version of Philadelphia, but Philadelphia poses a lot of the same problems that the Seahawks do in terms of their interior pass rush, in terms of their two stellar cornerbacks. Can Kyle outcoach Nick Sirianni? That's what it's going to come down to for the Niners to have any chance for them to beat the Eagles, which is possible because the Eagles might have the worst coaching staff on the offensive side of the football in the NFL, and their offense just sputters in an incredible fashion. I almost have never seen anything like it in my life. So that was Saturday, guys, and we've already gone an hour. The team that played the 49ers last week, the Chicago Bears, with a chance to secure their fate as the number 2 seed in the NFC and go into the playoffs, even after a loss, with a win and a sense of pride and momentum, beating Dan Campbell's Lions, Ben Johnson's former team. He can get his first win against Detroit. The Bears lay a fat egg at home. 19-16 Lions in a game where they did not score a point until the fourth quarter. Now, I want to say this about the Lions. This caps off one of the most frustrating, inconsistent, incoherent, misunderstood, confusing, strange seasons from any NFL team I have ever seen. And quite frankly, no team in the NFL this year, whether I bet on them or bet against them, has lost me more money than the Detroit Lions, and they capped off the regular season in prime form. Betting on the Bears and losing that bet. I just don't understand this team. Note to self, do not bet against or for the Lions for the entirety of 2026. Because I just don't get it. This is a game in which they're missing Sam Laporta. They're missing Penei Sewell. They're missing Alim McNeil. They're missing Alex Anzalone. They're missing 3 of their top safeties. And yet they go to Chicago and win the game outright. A Bears team that you would think 2 seed on the line, they're at home. Ben Johnson wants to beat his former team. Starters are playing. They lose. And a lot of concerning elements for Chicago in this game. And if I were a Bears fan, I'd be scared to death that they were going to lose next week. Even against the Packers, who I think are not very good. Now, the thing is about the Packers, we haven't really seen them play in like 3 weeks. Because I didn't really think we saw them play against the Ravens either, in all honesty, right? So, and the Packers could have beat the Bears last time they played. They very well should have beat the Bears in Chicago. Chicago almost looked like a team that didn't want to be there, didn't want to even try, and would have rather just been losing the game on purpose. Like, it was very odd to watch this Bears team perform in this game. And I couldn't understand why they couldn't move the ball. But most of it had to do with the fact that they couldn't get a stop. When you look at this game, the Lions had 26 first downs, 433 yards. Every time Jared Goff dropped back, he had baked a cake, made a coffee, did his hair, brushed his teeth, wiped his ass. He did whatever he wanted back there, bro. They couldn't touch Jared Goff with an offensive line that had been struggling. No right tackle, their best offensive lineman. They had 35 minutes of possession. Bears only had 24. They had more yards per play, nearly 200 more yards. I'm not even sure how the Lions only won this game by 3. The Lions didn't even do a stupid 4th down decision where it cost them the game. In fact, the Bears were 1 for 2 on 4th down. They failed in the end. Jared Goff was the better quarterback in this game. I think Goff has been bad for the majority of the stretch run. He did throw a bad interception in this game. It was not into a guy that was open. It was tipped in the air and then intercepted by Kevin Byard. In a game where you really couldn't afford that, it gave the momentum to Chicago and kind of allowed them to maybe come back. 27 for 42, 331 though. I thought that the receivers in this game for the Lions just were absurd. Like, I thought Jamison Williams was explosive. Every 3rd down and long, he seemed to convert it. 6 for 74. He just couldn't be stopped. Amon-Ra couldn't be stopped. 11 for 139, 15 targets. Between those two guys, they had 200 yards. Felt like every 2nd or 3rd down, there was a dig or an in route or a crossing route where they were open, where they beat man, they beat zone. It didn't matter. Khalif Raymond broke a screen pass. He looked explosive. Jahmyr Gibbs caught a touchdown out of the backfield. Gibbs and Montgomery couldn't really be tackled. The only times the Bears would stop him is when the Lions would run like a stretch to the outside and they would have good leverage. Other than that, I mean, Montgomery, he looked like a man among boys. Like, the Bears defense looked pathetic. Their pass rush was non-existent. Their run defense was not good outside of, like I said, outside runs. And offensively, they just had no control over the game. Caleb was 20 for 33, 212, 2 touchdowns, threw a pick. Was sacked once, 86 passer rating. They couldn't run the ball in this game, which was surprising. Swift only had 4 yards per carry. Monongai only had 2.3. Without Anzalone, without McNeil, they still couldn't run the ball. Loveland was a bright spot, 10 for 91 and a touchdown. But DJ Moore, again, 1 catch. He had 1 catch against the Niners. Concerning. Luther Burden didn't dominate like he did last week. Maybe he's injured. Concerning. Jide Walker was their most explosive receiver. Concerning. Caleb Williams was kind of playing backyard football too much. Concerning. Defensively, though, I just kind of felt like it was kind of like the Niners and the Seahawks, where the game was somewhat close on the scoreboard, but the Bears and the Niners never had control of the game because, yes, their defense only allowed 19 and Seattle only scored 13 against San Francisco, but neither one had control of the game. Neither one could ever kind of like stop the Lions other than holding them to field goals and stuff. Like, the Lions were going on long, time-consuming, control, possession drives, and it was keeping their offense off balance and out of rhythm and not having an impact on the game. And that was disappointing. Yeah, Chicago looked bad in this game. And Detroit looked really good on offense for the most part, outside of some red zone stuff and the occasional third down. They looked really good. They had 433 yards. Like, the Lions look like the playoff team. The Bears did not. The Bears looked really, really bad in this game. And if I were a Bears fan, I'd be really concerned. They didn't score until the fourth quarter. They scored 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions. And that was it. The Lions scored in every quarter of the game. And they probably could have scored more. Bad game by the Bears. I don't really know what to say. I'm still puzzled as to how the Bears couldn't move the ball against a Detroit defense that's missing their top 3 safeties, missing their best defensive tackle. Their pass rush is not good. They're missing their best linebacker coverage guy. Very bad. And then an inability to cover the Lions. Just an inability to affect Jared Goff. An inability to cover anyone. It was bad. So, the Bears, I'm not so sure I'm not going to pick the Packers. I just don't like the Packers either. I think both of these teams, these might be the 2 worst teams in the NFC playoffs. Now that I think about it. Both defensive lines are depleted. Both teams struggle to cover. I think the Packers, whoever runs the ball better in the game is going to win. And both of them are going to be able to run the ball. So it'll be an interesting game of cat and mouse, time of possession. And so far, we've seen the Lions possess the ball against the Bears. We've seen the Niners possess the ball against the Bears. We've seen the Packers possess the ball against the Bears. It's starting to become a pretty big rhythm, a pretty big sequence, and a pretty big consistency that Chicago is just going to get outpossessed, and therefore the other team is going to have the control of the game, which is concerning for a guy like Caleb, who is much better on script, is much better when he has a run game, is much better when he's playing in structure, and when he gets out of structure, he gets a little bit crazy, and that's what you don't want in a playoff game. So, Bears fans, let me know on that one. Okay, let's keep it going. The Giants beat the Cowboys 34-17. Dak Prescott left the game at halftime. Don't want to talk about it. No need. Giants win. Doesn't really matter other than draft position. Dallas disappointing again on defense, of course. Cleveland beat the Browns 20-18. Congratulations to Myles Garrett for becoming the all-time sack leader. That was an incredible moment. I was watching it live, actually, which was awesome, man. I'm glad I caught that live. I was watching the game. Cleveland found a way to win this game 20-18. It was honestly a complete fluke. It was a complete fluke of a win. But the Browns they deserve that love for the way their defense has played all year, the way that Myles Garrett has played. He deserves this record. He's an all-time player, all-time defensive player. Had to do it in an extra game compared to Michael Strahan, but still gets the record. That being said, when it comes to this game, man, I want to say, too, all the Browns fans that were there in Cincinnati, that was just awesome. These guys, their team always sucks. They're there. They're in attendance. They're watching Myles Garrett. They're clapping. They're cheering. That was just really cool. I thought that was just a really cool moment. Let me know what you guys thought of that in the comments. Cincinnati's defense played their fucking ass off here. Cincinnati's defense allowed 6 points in the game, and they lost to Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders was 11 for 22 for 111 yards, and he was sacked 6 times. He is terrible. He's atrocious. He's a third-string quarterback. He had an 11 QBR. He made enough throws and plays, including a couple penalties, that aided Cleveland into position to get the game-winning field goal in the very end of the game. But other than that, they did nothing on offense. Sampson had 3.2 yards per carry. Sanders had 111 yards. Like I said, was sacked 6 times. Their leading receiver had 23 yards. And Sanders also fumbled the ball. So there was that. Cleveland scored 2 touchdowns. One was a fumble by Noah Fant for a touchdown. The other was a pick 6 on Joe Burrow. Burrow played okay. He mostly played dink, dunk, and check down Charlie football. He seemed adamant about protecting himself and not throwing the ball vertically down the field. Didn't think this was Burrow's best game. He wasn't bad by any means. This is a tough defense, but I didn't think he made the necessary throws to win this game. Thought it was a very, very bland performance. Chase Brown played well again, 13 for 72, 5.5. He's a really good player. Jamar Chase, 8 for 96, 1 touchdown. He's a really awesome player, as you know. T. Higgins had an incredible touchdown catch as well. Chase Brown also had another touchdown as a receiver. Also, the defensive line of Cincinnati played really well. BJ Hill was spectacular. Cam Sample had 2 sacks. TJ Slayton had a sack. Miles Murphy. I thought that the rookie stood out to me on a couple plays. Shamar Stewart as well. And yeah, Cincinnati's defense played really well. That was actually my biggest takeaway. If they can get this defense fuming like they have down the stretch here, fired up the last few weeks, they've got something for next season. So look out for the way that they fix this defense. Trey Hendrickson certainly will be gone, I would think. But 20-18, Cleveland wins somehow. Shedeur did nothing. Congratulations to Myles Garrett. 19-17, Atlanta beats the Saints in the game that ultimately decided the NFC South. The Falcons, to me, will always be 2025 NFC South champions. They beat the Saints. They beat the Bucs. Down the stretch. Kirk Cousins was very mid. In fact, kind of bad. 18 for 32, 180, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Sacked 4 times. Carl Granderson and Cameron Jordan were absolutely destroying the Atlanta offensive line. Did not have that on my bingo card. Bijan Robinson was held in check. 15 carries, 33 yards. Same as Algier. 7 for 16. London did have a strong game. 4 for 78 and a touchdown. Kyle Pitts had some key clutch catches over the middle. Even on a 4th down, 6 for 58. Mooney had 3 for 20. I thought Shuck struggled here. Not really his fault. He was under a lot of duress, a lot of pressure. 23 for 35, 259, a touchdown interception. He had some inopportune drops. Juwan Johnson has a bad fumble at the start of the game, which leads to a touchdown. He had no receivers to work with. The run game was actually okay for the Saints in this game. It didn't average out well, but they at least ran it well enough. They moved the ball quite a bit, but they couldn't really get into the end zone a lot of the times, the Saints, it felt like. But the Falcons, both teams struggled to score. This was an under all day. And the possession, 31 minutes to 28 for the Saints. 5.2 yards per play for the Saints compared to 3.4 for the Falcons. It was an ugly grinder of a win by the Falcons. 340 yards for the Saints, 208 for the Falcons. They benefited off of turnovers, right? They had the interception late in the game, which saved the game. They had a fumble, which gave them the lead. So there was a lot of turnovers that kind of dictated this game as well in that mix. I expected the Falcons to win. I think looking at it now, Saints definitely had their opportunities. It just never really felt like they were going to win. Like, I never got the sense they were going to win this game. Even near the end where it felt like they were outplaying the Falcons, it still felt like the Falcons were the better, more talented team. And their defense, Atlanta's defense, really, really good, man. I got to give credit to both these defenses. Both these defensive coordinators are awesome. I think Ulbrich should keep his job. If I was in charge of the Falcons moving forward, I would keep him as the DC, find a new head coach. And then, Raheem Morris gets fired after the game. It's the correct decision. It's always been the correct decision. They fire their GM, who's an idiot. Great decision. I was kind of concerned that the Falcons would keep Raheem Morris and they'd be on to next year with another problem on their hands. But it's as simple as this, guys. You're in a division where you trade your first round pick and your division winner has 8 wins. Your division winner finishes 8-9 and you don't make the playoffs and you trade your first round pick. What does that say about the coaching? Right? What does that say about what you thought about this team, where you thought this team was at, and you didn't deliver? You didn't deliver with Michael Penix. You probably made a bad pick there if you're the general manager. Then you've got the talent Bijan, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Why did it take you so long to figure that out? Right? The offensive line, the defense. You've got the talent to make something happen, and I think this is a very interesting spot for a head coach coming in, because I think there's a lot of young, good football players on this team. There isn't a lot of great draft capital early on, but if you can figure out the quarterback position here, which is always difficult to do, this is a team that could be really promising in a really weak division. So I think they made the right decision. I think they fired the guy when they needed to. They probably should have fired him earlier. I understand keeping a coach till the end. But, yeah, he was a Jabroni of the Year candidate. I mean, what do you expect? What do you expect? Guy was going to get fired. 16-3, Minnesota beat the Packers. No one cares. JJ McCarthy pulled himself again. He's an absolute pansy. Charm and soft. Don't want to talk about it. Clayton Tune had 34 yards passing. That was the Packers' day. 34 yards, 4 sacks. Next, the Jags beat the Titans 41-7. Cam Ward actually scored a touchdown and then had to leave the game. So the Titans scored a touchdown. Cam Ward was 3 for 3 for 52 yards. After that, they put in one of the worst journeyman quarterbacks in the NFL, Brandon Allen, who was a backup for the Niners last year. He was absolutely pitiful. 17 for 30, 72 yards on 17 completions is fucking pathetic. An interception, 10 QBR. Trevor Lawrence, meanwhile, once again, sliced and diced, 22 for 30, 255, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 131 rating. Their run game continued to struggle. Titans are good against the run. Parker Washington, stud, 5 for 87 and a touchdown. Brenton Strange, 6 for 52 and a touchdown. 41-7, 24 points in the second quarter. As soon as Brandon Allen entered the game, you knew the game was over. Jacksonville will play the Bills in the first round. So let's talk about the Bills win 35-8 over the worst team I've ever seen in my life, the New York Jets. The New York Jets played the backup Bills and lost by 27 points today in Buffalo. Mitchell Trubisky literally looked like Josh Allen, going 22 for 29, 259 yards and 4 touchdowns with a 90 QBR. Ray Davis had 151 yards rushing, 7.2 yards per carry. Keon Coleman had 49 yards, and once again, the Bills receivers did absolutely nothing. Knox had a touchdown. Gabe Davis had a touchdown. Brady Cook had 60 yards passing and a touchdown. Khalil Herbert started at running back, had 42 yards. Didn't even know he was on the team. Isaiah Williams led the team in receiving with 24 yards. And that was it. Buffalo's defense, didn't really do anything. Once again, the Jets didn't get an interception. This is a team that did not intercept a pass all season. Their head coach is a defensive coach. What does that say about Aaron Glenn? Should he be fired? If you're asking, absolutely, positively, yes. He sucks. He was never good. I tried to warn you. The Bills put up 470 yards and 30 first downs, the most impressive offensive day of any team. And they played the Jets mostly starters, I believe. 38 minutes of possession. Not that I would really be able to tell at this point, because the Jets are playing a bunch of bums. So I don't really know. But the Jets might be. The last 2 weeks, this is the closest to a college football team playing in the NFL that I've ever seen in my life. The New York Jets. So the Bills and the Jags will play. That, to me, is the most fascinating AFC game by far. I could see that game going either way. And it's a fascinating matchup between a team that no one really believes is a true contender, but is probably the better team in Jacksonville at home. And a Jacksonville team that matches up pretty well with Buffalo on paper. At the same time, though, Buffalo's got Josh Allen. Buffalo's got a spectacular run game. Buffalo's got a really solid pass defense that might be able to provide Trevor Lawrence the first test in a long time. So I'm going to have to really think about that game and how I think that game is going to go. Because that is a big dictator of the playoff bracket, in my opinion, depending on who you pick there. Because I think that is a very close game. I think that could go either way. I think that is a fascinating matchup. It might be the best matchup of the entire wildcard weekend. The Denver Broncos embarrassed themselves on the way to confirming the number 1 seed, winning 19-3. Bo Nix threw 14 completions. Only 2 of them were past the line of scrimmage. He had 141 yards, and I am not exaggerating. He was sacked 4 times. He had a 45 QBR. Sacked 4 times with the starting offensive line, the starting offense against the Chargers' mostly backup defense. Embarrassing. Meanwhile, the Chargers, Trey Lance threw the ball 44 times for 136 yards, 3.1 yards per completion. He had 4 sacks, 43 passer rating. He ran 9 times for 69 yards. He probably should have ran more. Bo Nix led the Broncos in rushing, 8 for 49. So again, the Broncos do nothing well on offense. They don't run the ball well. They don't throw the ball well. Their screen game is ass. Keenan Allen collected his check, 7 catches for 36 yards. Nothing else important happened. The Chargers stayed in the game, and honestly, the only reason the Broncos won is because they got an early pick 6 and they never looked back. It was 10-0 in the first quarter, and then the game was just an absolute slog from there on out, where occasionally the Broncos would get into field goal range and kick a field goal, but the Chargers were never, ever, 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 ever even close to scoring a touchdown as Denver's defense continued to collapse the pocket and make Trey Lance look like, well, Trey Lance. 14-12, the Raiders beat the Chiefs on a game-winning field goal. Absolutely no one watched this game and no one cares. I watched the end of the game and realized Aiden O'Connell was playing. Some guy named Steve Buscemi played and Chris Olodekan. Also, no one cares. 14-12. The end of the game resulted in 12 first downs for the Raiders and 10 for the Chiefs. I have never seen worse offense in my life. Next, the Rams, everyone's favorite to win the Super Bowl, was struggling with the Cardinals through 3 quarters as they were trailing in the game until the 4th quarter, where they picked it up and won 37-20. Matthew Stafford threw another couple touchdowns at the 1-yard line and put up 259 yards and 4 touchdowns, stat padding his way to a potential MVP. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum both rushed for 4 yards per carry or more, and they really ran well in the second half. The Cardinals, once again, forgot they have a running back, so they didn't run the ball. Jacoby Brissett, 22 for 31, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, was sacked 6 times behind a backup offensive line. Was basically the difference in the game. Stafford was sacked once. Brissett was sacked 6 times. Brissett was actually shredding the Rams when he got an opportunity to throw the ball, but a lot of the times later in the game, the pocket collapsed on him and he had no chance. The Rams' pressure eventually became too much for a bad Cardinal offensive line. I thought this was concerning. A bad game by the Rams, mostly, as their defense mostly gave up a lot of yards and plays throughout the course of the game. Through 3 quarters, they allowed 20 points to a terrible Cardinals team who look like they should be picking in the top 5 in the draft, which I believe they are as they finish with a 3-14 record. Again, Jacoby Brissett loses another game where Kyler Murray could have potentially started. The Rams had 25 first downs by the end of the game, and their offense continued to look good, but this mostly did happen in the second half as they scored 21 points in the second half, and it felt like they got their heads out of their asses in the second half. They were able to really dominate the line of scrimmage. What's up next? We've got a couple more games. Washington beat Philly in a game that I'm surprised Philly didn't try harder to get the 2 seed. Instead of playing the Packers at home, they will play the Niners at home. I'm not sure which one they prefer, but instead of being the 2 and facing the Bears in the second round if they win, or, having that 2 seed advantage, they'll only have a 3 seed advantage, which means they might not get the second round home field advantage, which to me, that's important for Philly, as Philly is going to ride and die with its defense. And without home field, your defense won't be able to perform as well. That being said, 24-17 Commanders. I thought the Eagles were going to win this game until they didn't. They allowed 14 points in the 4th quarter. Josh Johnson was again Josh Johnson with 131 yards. He threw a bad pick. Chris Rodriguez had 65 yards on the ground, 4.1 per carry. Some, Bill had 2.2. Some up and down running from Washington. Tanner McKee did not look as good as I would have thought he would. But, the Eagles did not play Dallas Goedert. They did not play some of their offensive line. They did not play A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith only played part of the game. So can kind of understand that. The Commanders were actually trying. They played all their starters, including their defense. So it was a little bit of an outmatched sort of thing where the Eagles were playing a lot of backups, especially on defense. Jeremiah Trotter led the team with tackles, 12. Michael Carter had 9. Sidney Brown had 7. These guys don't really play for the Eagles. So, Josh Uche had 5. They had 0 sacks on Josh Johnson, though. The Eagles lost. I don't really know what to say. I didn't really watch a lot of the game, to be honest, because I knew the Eagles weren't trying. Tank Bigsby looked good, though. 16 for 75, 4.7 per carry. I'd give him the ball a bit more in the playoffs if I were the Eagles than they have been giving him the ball. I would keep Saquon fresher than what they've been doing. But the Eagles will play the Niners, which is interesting. Again, I brought it up earlier. Coaching versus talent is going to be the ball game for me. The last game, of course, is the Patriots. The Patriots won 38-10 over the Dolphins. It was a little scary in the second quarter when the Dolphins put up a 10-point second quarter, but they didn't score in any other quarter. New England was up 14-0 just like that and looked like the best team in the world again. They have those moments all year where they just explode and look impeccable and look like a vintage Patriots team. This Patriots team looks like a prime Tom Brady team at times. 14-3, first of all, is incredible for this team. To not get the number 1 seed with that record is also pretty incredible. But yeah, right to start the game, they ran the ball like the 2004 Patriots. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson in this game looked like Jim Brown. He looked like Corey Dillon in 2004. He had 7 carries for 131 yards and 18.7 yards per carry. 2 touchdowns. A 56-yard run included. Trevon, I don't know why today I've been wanting to call him Trevondre. Travion had 53 yards, 2 touchdowns. I honestly think Stevenson has got to get the ball more in this first game. I think the way Stevenson looks right now, he looks phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal. This guy looked unstoppable. He wasn't his quickness, his agility, his acceleration, his size, his power. He looked awesome, man. I think using Travion as a change of pace in this, there's no reason this shouldn't be a 50-50 split for the Patriots in the first game against the Chargers, especially a Chargers team that is a little bit lighter up front, where it's going to be difficult for them to tackle Ramondre. I think Mondre could consistently get some extra yards on his runs. Drake May again was Drake May, 14 for 18, 191, 1 touchdown, ho-hum, 129 passer rating. He made some really good throws in this game. There was a stretch where they did go 3 and out, or they did punt twice in the second quarter. Other than that, he led, 31 points of offense in 3 quarters, which is pretty damn impressive. Yeah, he was Drake May. I mean, I don't know what to say. He was great. He made some incredible plays outside the pocket, breaking tackles, making throws down the field. They had a nice little flea flicker to Efton Chisholm. Diggs made a couple catches. Hunter Henry made some catches. They tried to get him some incentives. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Patriots, I never felt like we were going to lose. I never felt it was really a game. New England made a critical first quarter 4th down stop, which really helped early in the game. The Patriots had a blocked field goal, which actually led to Miami points, their second set of points with a field goal. That was tough. There was a sleepy second quarter. Miami won the second quarter 10-3. And New England kind of was sleeping in that quarter. They were up 14-0. It's human nature. 14-0 lead, you just assume, the Dolphins, it's the cold. They're going to just quit. It's over. Let's just glide to a victory. Miami kind of, punched them in the face, and New England had to respond, and they did. They counter-punched with 21 points for the rest of the game. I'm not sure if Drake May led all 38 points or if Josh Dobbs led one of the touchdowns. I can't remember. But Dobbs was only in there for 4 attempts, so I'm not 100% sure. May also had 41 yards rushing. He scrambled really well in this game, I thought. The Patriots had 22 first downs, 457 yards, and 8.2 yards per play, which is insane. That might have been the highest of the day, 8.2 yards per play. But the Patriots offense looks awesome. I think this is the most balance we've seen from this offense all year. I love the way the run game looks entering the playoffs. That's what you got to have in the playoffs. Their balance looks great. I think as an offense, Jacksonville is very balanced. I think New England might be the most balanced offense in the AFC right now. They might be the best offense in the AFC, period. And their defense, no Tonga in this game, no Spillane in this game. Outside of one or two drives from McDaniel and his play calling, Miami really had nothing. New England tackled well. I thought their linebackers played really well. Gonzalez had a great game forcing a fumble. Marcus Jones had a good game. Hawkins had an interception. I wish the pressure was a bit better. Barmore had a sack. Milton Williams did stand out as a really big impact player. He returned for action this week before playing next week. Will Campbell also returned this week. New England had a great pocket and a lot of time all day. Miami's defense struggled to really stop most things the Patriots were doing in this game. And that's about it, guys. I think that's everything for week 18. I'm excited for the New England Chargers game. Just quickly on that, I think that the Chargers are an interesting matchup for New England. We lost to them late last year with a skeleton crew of what this team has become with, Gerard Mayo in an embarrassment Saturday. I think it was a Saturday game. We were trying to lose probably. But Jesse Minter is a great defensive coordinator. The Chargers have a great coverage unit. And I think the stress is going to be on New England to run the ball in this game. And I think if the Patriots win, they're going to have balance. They're going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to play action. They're going to have to take their spots and pick apart the Chargers by 1,000 paper cuts. And I like how Drake May can work against zone coverage and work the underneath portion of the defense. I feel like McDaniels will script some good run plays for the Chargers. The Chargers can be had on the ground. And I think defensively, if Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, Harold Landry returns, he didn't play in this game either, can come to play. If we can just get some third down stops, some sacks, we're going to win this game. Like, the Chargers' offensive line is not good enough. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball on us. And I think what's critical to this game is the Patriots' ability to stop the run. Because if the Patriots can stop the run and they force the Chargers to be one-dimensional with their current version of their offensive line, I don't think they're going to be able to hold up against anyone. So I think New England is going to get pressure on third down. They're going to be able to get to Herbert. And Herbert will make his plays. He'll make his spectacular Superman-like plays. But we got Superman ourselves. And he won't outduel Drake May in this game. At home. In the cold. Chargers are also a warm weather team. Stop the run. Run the ball. Win the game. That's the formula for the Patriots against the Chargers. After that, it might be a little bit different against other teams. But against the Chargers, it's what it's always been. Run the ball and stop the run. That's what it was in 2018. That's what it is in this game. So, Patriots, good luck to you. Good luck to all you playoff teams. I will be providing my playoff predictions as I do every year. Probably on Monday night or Tuesday morning, guys. Look out for my full playoff predictions where I go through every round, every pick, every matchup. That will be out by Tuesday. Gronk, spike the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. It's Mitch. Thank you for a great regular season, guys. Love ya. Peace.